Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely. This is Outside the Circle with insert pronoun for Scott Stokely, so I don't say it twice. uh, I'm here with my co-host Derek and the other person he brought along, Luke. See, I
Hello.
don't play favorites on
I was gonna say,
Luke and
showing me
Derek.
some love this week. Showing me some love this week. I'll take it. I'll take it.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Doing well. It was
Doing,
a great weekend. More snow here in Michigan, unfortunately,
we,
but
we we went from 80 degrees to 33 degrees in one day, so
yep,
that was fun.
it's awesome.
Wow, it's snowing in Michigan. You know, it's cold in Japan, but not snowing. But we just decided, I think, that we're gonna maybe try to come here for a couple weeks in the winter
Hmm.
because there's so many pictures how beautiful it is. But we want to go snowboarding on Mount Fuji. That I think there's a ski resort, right? And we made some friends at the base of Mount Fuji that we got to know pretty well that showed us around here, locals. And yeah, I think we're coming here to go snowboarding this winter.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, it sounds. So I'm. You'd think that being from Michigan, when we get snow all the time, that I'm a winter sports kind of guy. I'm not. No, I hibernate during the wintertime. I can't ski or snowboard. I don't have a snowmobile, but if I had one, that'd probably be the only thing I'd be like interested in doing. But yeah, I think I'm just in the wrong place.
My wife is a phenomenal
First,
skier, and I'm
I've
an
never understood anybody that lives in cold, snowy places that doesn't do winter activities or just loves it. Because it seems like most of the people that live in really cold places, they hate it for 5 months. And I'm like, what is that, 5/12 of your life? I mean, that's crazy. Now, if you live in Colorado and you snowboard, you're not even mad when winter. I snowboarded for 8 seasons,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, you're not mad when winter comes. You're happy because it's just a new fun thing to do. But yeah, you guys are crazy if you live there and don't do it. You should move to Alabama.
Yeah. I think the people that live here and don't like winter sports just survive off angst anyway. So we just need one more thing to get us angry.
Well, okay. Do you have 24-hour news?
No, oh man, I stay away from the news by all like any way I can. I try not to, just because of
Well, the best thing about it is it's like it's kind of like it's like a raffle where every ticket wins a prize. Like with 24-hour news, it doesn't matter which channel on which side you pick; they're all equally awful. So
yes,
like you don't have to like pick a side and get political. You just like close your eyes and like choose one, and it's like holy cap, that's these guys are worst people I know.
yeah. I mean, we could go into a whole discussion about the dramatization of the news and how it is just to get ratings and not actually reporting facts. But it's a disc golf podcast or show. We just did our
Yeah, we'll
podcast.
do. But you know we should do because it is good for ratings. We should talk about this off the air. Over time, we should get disc golf political. Like, for instance, we should decide that maybe, let's say, everything in the PDJ is always right and everybody in the Disc Golf Pro Tour is evil. Or we could go the other way around and that's fine too. But I think we should pick a side and polarize our audience. We'll talk about it later.
I'm down.
perfect.
I've actually
Put it on the agenda.
I've received backlash online for coming up with just out of pure entertainment. Nobody wanted to play my game, but I just came up with like conspiracies in the disc golf world. And I got so much hate for saying certain things, even though I was saying it fictitiously. It was amazing.
You know, it is amazing. And one of the things I've learned, like, well, first off, I avoid certain topics, but there's topics that I didn't know were bad topics. I'll give you an example. This is, by the way, it's important to note, this is when I was kind of poor. I didn't have a lot of money, but I went sea kayaking from island to island, the San Juan Islands in the Puget Sound for 5 days, where you kayak across the sound and then you find this uninhabited island to pitch a tent. It's amazing. And at the end of it, I went to this nice crab dinner. And I was like, it was like $50 for a crab dinner. And this is like 5 years ago. And I was like, that was a ton of money for a meal back then.
Right.
And I'm like, but I'm celebrating my trip. So I go to this nice restaurant, I get this crab dinner. And this dude walks in with his dog. The dog walks right up next to my table, shakes his hair, his dander, his hair, whatever fur flies all over the place, including my dinner, and he just walks off laughing like nothing happened. And so I was like, I posted about this. I go, can you believe how like rude some people are? Holy crap! The backlash of people that are like, no, it's perfectly acceptable. That's his friend, or that's his
Oh
support animal.
man.
And I'm like, it wasn't blind. He wasn't. He was just some guy with a dog. And everybody was like, and I'm like, holy crap! Don't talk. Don't like have an honest take on dogs. That's a cult. That's a cult out there that you don't want to like anger.
Oh, I mean, social media, you can't have an honest take on anything without people going, "You're wrong, you're stupid or bigoted in some way or another."
That's fair.
Yeah, we can avoid a lot of those topics, except for today because we're going into the weeds on something people are debating.
Unless they start a debate in the comments, and then I'm all for it. Start that debate in the comments.
Oh, that's good for the algorithm.
There we go. Yeah.
You
So
know, I'll tell you one funny thing about that. Like, I don't even understand when people complain about like all the negativity and hate in social media. Like, go to my Facebook page or my Instagram. Like, go back 3 years, try to find a negative comment in there. Like, there's none. Like, I don't talk about crappy things in my social media, and I don't get into any of those feeds. And so every time I see someone who's like, every time you post, all you get is all this, and that, I'm like, I think you had to have done things to actually invite that. Like the algorithm doesn't send me crappy people. Like my channel is totally positive. All I have to do is I keep my mouth shut once in a while on opinions that I have,
mhm.
but I vent to Adriana. I turn off Facebook and then I tell her how mad that made me. I just don't do it online.
Unfortunately, I
Smart
get
moves.
like I follow like I'm on disc golf Twitter. So, because I mean, if anything happens during a tournament, it usually shows up really quickly on Twitter before it even hits Facebook or Instagram or anything else. So it's a good way to like keep up with things. But as you know, Twitter's, I mean, maybe you don't have a Twitter, but Twitter is just a cesspool of people just wanting to debate and there's actually Twitter accounts, even in the disc golf world. I won't name it. If they keep going, I might have to say who they are. But they literally come up with controversial and bad takes because they know it'll get post engagement. But it's just all negative takes. But hey, people will debate it in the comments so that it raises their limelight in the algorithm. So that's what's happening on Twitter if you're not aware.
Okay. Well, I'm actually have to start a Twitter because of a company that I'm launching in 4 months. I need a presence everywhere because this is the biggest project I've ever done. I will announce it soon. But here's what I will give you guys a secret take on controversial stuff on the internet
Mhm.
that I encourage you to go seek out. There is a channel on Reddit called Disc Golf Circle Jerks, and okay, they go off the rails in every single area. Basically, they do things that was hilarious 10 years ago, but now it's like you can't talk about that. You can't say this. You can't joke about that. The channel is, I'm sorry, it is so funny, but uh, I don't comment in there because I can't publicly be endorsing this stuff. So for public record, I condemn you, Reddit disc golf circle jerks, with your awful content that nobody should go watch.
Yeah, I tend
Did,
to
did I do?
lean. I'm a real fan of what wouldn't be called PC or appropriate humor because I grew up listening to like Howard Stern and like Opie and Anthony, like the shock jocks, and like
Of
I
course.
I lean towards that just because that's what I grew up on. But you don't find that much more nowadays. And when you do find it, you don't want to be like, I'm a fan of that because then people is like, oh, you're a bad person, even though I just find what's funny funny.
It's a weird time we live in. The pendulum will shift back. You know, like we're in a time where people get offended over people trying to be funny. It's very strange, but it'll shift back. It's temporary. You know, it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I said, which by the way, exactly why I never read the threads on disc golf circle jerks. Here, let me just give you an example of one. There was a thread one time, a highly offensive thread.
That you didn't read.
I mean, I couldn't, no, which I didn't read, obviously. But the thread was, which touring pro's partner would you most like to sleep with?
Dang.
Right? Yeah, I mean, you can't talk about that. And they gave 5 nominations. And guess what? Adriana, sitting right there, she was one of the nominations. And she finished 3rd place in the voting.
I mean,
And and like it was great because we're out on the road when this came up, and oh my God, how do you feel about that? And Adriana would say, "You mean about losing? I was just flattered to be nominated."
It's a podium finish. That's a podium finish.
I was like, my girlfriend made the nomination list for the Academy Award for. Anyways, yeah, it was hilarious, but not for me. I'm offended by all of it.
oh, of course not. Well, I guess we should probably talk about disc golf now.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
Yeah. The Innova Blue Ridge Championships took place over the weekend, in which we saw Gannon Burr take down the win again from the chase card.
rumor.
Again. Sorry, what was that?
I said rumor has it he's good.
Yeah. Yeah, rumor has it he's real good. And what's interesting to me is he's saying he hasn't been playing well. So once he feels like he's been playing well, I'm wondering if by how many strokes he's going to be taking wins by. Because if he's taking wins now and he's not playing well, it's going to be just open season every tournament for him.
He threw some really pretty shots. That flex.
At the highest level of athletics, the feeling that you're not playing well is almost one of those correlations to being successful in a sense, because it means you're focusing on what didn't work, not on what did. And that is what makes people at the top of the sports world better. It's one of those traits that doesn't surprise me. He's wrong. He's been playing well.
Yeah, no, it's insane because I watch him, and obviously he's not getting everything, but nobody is getting everything, and I would think the sport would be very boring if it was just a bunch of 18 down rounds every weekend. But he's throwing such technical shots and hitting his lines and making his putts at 50 miles an hour, and it's insane to watch him. Specifically because he's so young, but you see him in between shots, like on backups, and he's just having fun. And then as soon as that foot hits the tee pad, he's a warrior again. It's like you don't usually see that from such young players.
No, he's fearless, and most of I shouldn't say most, but most of the young players, like especially on tour, are fearless.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do things where you just think that can't possibly be the right decision. Like they're attacking everything just about. And I was about to say that that's with all the young players, but possibly there's a bunch of young players out there who are talented who aren't on tour, and maybe that fearless part is the missing part of the equation, because you can't play scared. Like that does not work. But yeah, Gannon's a good kid. I mean, no, I'll rephrase that. Gannon is a great kid. Like he's one of my favorite people when I was touring. His stuff with Alden Harris, his social media it's so funny. He's got a dry sense of humor, but it's good. Gannon's great. I love that kid.
Yeah, but there are also not many 17-year-olds that are the number 1 ranked disc golfer in the world.
According to UDisc.
According to UDisc, Gannon Burr is now the number 1 ranked disc golfer in the world. So that's quite impressive for the 17-year-old phenom.
Yeah, except here's the newsflash, Gannon. There's some 14-year-olds out there that are scary AF.
Yeah,
So enjoy it while enjoy your 6 months, Gannon, because once those 14-year-olds turn 15, ooh, they're scary too. Now, look, Gannon's he's a 27-year-old man in a 17-year-old body. His attitude, his maturity,
mm-hmm.
got a great mom who was like supported his disc golf career, and now he's doing his thing. I don't know. I huge fan, and I think he's probably the best player in the world. It's probably accurate.
For sure. Now, I was scrolling Twitter.
Excuse me, Paul. Actually, the world champion is still the best player in the world. I'm sorry, Paul McBeth is still the best player in the world through the world championships. Because I still hold to that, but I think you know what I meant.
Paul will always be my champion.
Well, I mean, me, the world champion is always that's one of the things you get. You get two things. You get a trophy, and you get the I'm the best player in the world for the next 12 months.
Right.
You can't take that away. So what I always say is, who do I bet on next tournament? Right now.
For sure. Well, with that, with Gannon moving into the top spot, I was scrolling Twitter, as I often do, and I saw a tweet that raised a good point, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. So this is a tweet. I'll give him credits from Tennessee 2's DG. He said, "This is why I hate most of the ranking algorithms. Calvin, with 2 wins and 1 missed podium this season, still top 5, couldn't and still hasn't passed Rick. Gannon, however, has missed top 10 3 times this season and top 20 twice. Yet Gannon, it moves to the top spot." So I guess my question is, how accurate can these world rankings be if someone like Calvin, who obviously has been on a tear this season, still can't pass Ricky Wysocki, who missed the first part of the season? And then Gannon, I know he's won 2 an Elite Series and a Silver Series, is able to jump into that top spot. It seems like, no disrespect to Gannon, but something seems wrong with the algorithm there.
No, it's not that there's something right or wrong with the algorithm. It's anytime you have a ranking, it's subjective based on whatever criteria you're ranking the player by. Like let's take it to the extreme example. You have 2 people debating who the best player in the world is, and one of them, in their mind, you need at least 3 years worth of data to show, because what is a small sample size? It means nothing. Do you just use one tournament? Well, you don't need a ranking system for one tournament. You have a scoreboard for one tournament. Okay, maybe 1 month. That's valid. That's who won. But the argument on the other side is, but that 1 month isn't enough to demonstrate anything because the sample size is too small. Neither people are right. Which is why there's always fights in sports bars.
Right.
Because everyone thinks it is fact, which is not. It's all based on those criteria. So the person who comes up with the ranking, for example, could very easily stack wins to be worth more points than a tier system where it's 10 points for first, 5 points for second, 3 for third, 4 for fourth, and 1 for fifth. Well, you could have a player beat another player 3 out of 4 times, but still one player gets a win, he gets more points. Well, that's because according to one person's ranking system, like, wins are more important than anything. But the other person says, well, what about consistency? And so there's no right or wrong there. That's why it's fun to debate these things. I will retract what I said earlier. When I said I think like Gannon's the best player in the world, yeah, Calvin. Let's say Calvin and Gannon. I don't want to leave Calvin out of that discussion,
Right?
Because it's very invalid. But that's all it is. It's how you look at college football. What matters more? Common opponents, head-to-head matchups, total points, the eyeball test on the field, wins and losses, recent performance. And there's entire shows about these that are no one's wrong.
Right.
Well, with that, do you feel that we have too many ranking systems? Like, I mean, we have UDisc World Rankings. We have Statmando, which I trust Statmando's a little bit more just because I know that they go in depth with the stats. We got player ratings, which people use as like a ranking system, and then we have DGPT rankings. And I mean, some of it's what have you done for me lately, and some of it, can span in a wide amount of time. But when we want to
So,
get a definitive best in the world, what do we go by?
all right. So here's the funny thing. So I'm an outspoken advocate of the the ranking system. If you understand math, you are blown away by how well it actually works. It's an incredibly good predictor of results. I mean, take a 1030 player and a 1020 player who have met 10 times, and it is highly likely the 1030 player has beat the 1020 player at those 10 more frequently than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
By probably by about a stroke and 2/3, which is exactly what the rankings predicted would have happened if you have a large enough sample size. Uh, Rankings are your level across uh, all events, right? It just counts everything. It doesn't account for players who are inconsistent, but who get hot and they play aggressive. They get hot and they fail miserably when they're not hot, but they also might get more wins than a higher ranking player. Because when you have wins and losses, you're talking about a series of smaller sample sizes within this larger metric. But all the rankings, like I said, they're all fun. And confirmation bias is a hell of a thing. So, like if you're a Calvin fan, you can find a ranking system that has Calvin number one,
Right.
and that's cool. That you go to the sports bar and you debate why. And hey, I got a quick funny aside to that. It has nothing to do with anything except it kind of relates. I just thought about this when I said you're going to go debate at the sports bar. You guys have figured out by now, by the way, that I'm an old person, so my mind goes off in different directions during stories, right?
Yeah, we got that, but I have
Okay.
ADHD, so I understand.
Okay, perfect. All right. So when debating these metrics, this is related. There's always this debate, like what's the best rivalry in sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Auburn, Alabama? Is it Michigan, Ohio State? Is it the Red Sox versus the Yankees? The list goes on, right? I can tell you flat out in my observations, there's not even anything close to North Carolina Duke college basketball. And the reason I say this is the first year I was out on tour, we were out at this private disc golf course and everybody's sitting around drinking. And these two guys start arguing with each other because Dean Smith, the coach of North Carolina, had more wins, but Mike Krzyzewski had two national titles to one. And they start going back. Who is the better coach? The most wins, the most titles, most wins, most titles. And it starts getting heated. And all of a sudden, these two guys start punching each other in the face. I've never seen that before. Now, apparently, like in Alabama, that happens once a year. It's not uncommon within families. But I saw these guys start punching each other in the face. But what was telling about this is nobody broke it up. I think they start punching each other. I look around, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's Saturday."
Nah, let them fight it out.
They'll take care of it.
Yeah. So the point is that neither one of them are right. It's just based on your own criteria. Probably, I will argue though that if Krzyzewski had fewer titles and more wins, the person probably wouldn't have changed their mind over who the better coach was. You find the ranking to fit your own narrative to confirm your bias.
I mean, that almost is like the Ricky and Paul debate from last year. You have Ricky winning in a bunch of events, but Paul winning a major. Who had the better season?
Yeah, of course. That's
I
that's why
mean,
it's
Ricky had
look
a major though,
when
didn't
you
he?
have sports that people
Disc golf
watch,
pro.
that's what it's all about. I mean, there's participation sports. Like you go out to bowling league, or you go out and play, disc golf. You're participating, but then there's spectator sports, which is hockey, baseball, football. But now disc golf is in that group. So part of spectating a sport is debating with your buddies and maybe even arguing. and occasionally punching each other in the face. Let's not forget that.
You know,
Friendly
I'm
love
sure there
tap.
were a couple people out there this weekend that definitely wanted to punch something in the face because there were a couple people that got eaten up at the Blue Ridge Championship this last weekend.
Yes,
Hmm.
specifically on hole 18. So if anybody hasn't seen it, this is what hole 18 looks like. 818-foot par four, island green,
All the OB.
lots of OB. And what I found interesting about this is that OB comes within circle one. So you basically have maybe 40 to 50-foot wide island total. And I mean, a couple notable scorecards who hole 18 just ate their lunch was a Jordan Davidson and an AJ Carey. Now, I'm not showing this to be disparaging to these two players, just to demonstrate how difficult hole 18 was.
Hmm.
AJ Carey taking a 15 on hole 18, and Jordan Davidson taking a 19 on hole 18. Now, going back to this hole plays stroke and distance,
Yes, it does.
meaning that if you weren't making it on the island or going OB, you're throwing again until you could, much like hole, was it 17 at USDGC or is it 16? 17.
17.
Yeah. After this, AJ Carey had comments on this hole saying almost the same thing. The hole plays stroke and distance to the island. No point of exit, no drop zone. I hit it inbounds 15 feet from the pin on the island and rolled out 5 straight shots in a row. The hole shouldn't be allowed in PDGA play without being an X tier. Had we played OB rules defined by the PDGA competition manual, I would have taken a 6. The island green is smaller than C1 circle in size, with OB 15 to 20 feet from each side of the pin. I definitely should have laid up. Now, I can see his frustration, and I know that stroke and distance isn't really a fan on tour, and we actually don't really see it too often besides USDGC. Was this a valid point, or was this just mad for not being able to throw on the island and taking a 15?
And just your thoughts on the design hole, really.
Sure. It's hard to comment specifically on the design because I wasn't there to play. So I can just speak in general about stroke and distance. But first off, it's a very valid argument that he has. And it's unfortunate because the person that voices their opinion is, often the person who had a bad result, which means people will dismiss that opinion because, it's sour grapes. I mean, look, the person that succeeded on the hole is as upset about the hole, but it doesn't negate his point. I personally, I cannot stand stroke and distance on disc golf. And basically, what I mean is, I can't stand having to uh, rethrow a shot uh, if you don't have the option of playing it safe. Okay,
Right.
there's a difference because anytime you choose to throw the hyzer shot over the lake where the lake's right in front of your landing area or tee pad, if you have to rethrow, as long as you had the option of not taking that shot, fine, right? Because that was your choice to do that. Um, there are holes where you're not given that option. The most common example is the traditional island hole, where if you don't make the island, you're going to be rethrowing. You're basically throwing from island to island,
Right.
but you never second island. The first island being the tee pad. The reason why I don't like this is that I think it violates the spirit of our game because I don't personally want to see train wrecks from my friends. I don't need to see it. That's not exciting to me.
Right.
There's no drama coming to the final hole or final couple holes, and oh, you never know what's going to happen because the person could take a 10. Really? So the result is if they do take that 10, which means we were completely caught off guard by the results because we thought that person won the tournament, but then they took a 10. I'm not enjoying that at all. These are my friends. Now, if look, if this was ball golf and you have a bunch of millionaires playing against other millionaires,
Right.
and the person who takes the 10 after they miss is still a millionaire, and they go home to their supermodel wife after they stop at their supermodel girlfriend's house on the way home to see the super wife. And by the way, the rest of their life is going to be great. They're financially set. They'll never pay for a meal at a country club
Driving the
forever.
Maserati.
Yeah, I don't have look. Okay, that's not a train wreck because no matter what happens to them on that hole, their life is great. Okay, but this
Yeah.
is not the case. Not disc golf. We still have players who are out there trying to make it on the road. Every dollar matters. Maybe this is their big opportunity, like the Johnny McRae thing a couple years ago at
USDGC.
USDGC.
I was going to bring that up.
About that wasn't exciting to me or fun. That was my friend Johnny McRae watching his dream fall apart. Like I didn't enjoy a second of it. So I don't like that. Now, if you have the option of laying up, that is different because you had the ability to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have the ability to make that choice, it does change things. But the spirit of stroke and distance is not right. Another problem and we saw that this weekend, is that you always have situations where weather changes. It gets a little windier in the afternoon. Maybe it rains during one flight, but not for everybody's. We're not all playing in identical conditions. That already creates a spread of scores. That is, it's not that it's unfair because over the course of a season everybody will get good weather, bad weather, but it certainly creates an artificial spread in the scores. But as soon as you add stroke and distance and the potential of sevens, eights, nines, tens,
Mm-hmm.
because some up to a hole and there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind that wasn't there earlier, now you're talking about one hole, one piece of bad luck with the wind blowing could be a 10-stroke difference. That's practically podium versus cashing.
Yeah.
Right.
So like why? Why do we need to see that? I mean, you take a drop zone, you give a player a 2-stroke penalty on tour, that's a massive penalty. Like that's going to cost them hundreds of dollars. If they're near the top, it could cost them $1,000, $2,000 to a player that doesn't have a lot of money. Like I think that's a pretty big penalty for throwing a bad shot. It doesn't need to be more. So I adamantly don't like him. I just don't. It's not fun for me to watch. It's not exciting
Yeah,
for
I
me.
I, I agree, and especially at a silver event where traditionally silver events have been a place where it's usually a weaker field, except for I mean a few top guys that tend to go, but you expect them to do well, and then you expect to see someone that you don't always see on coverage, play well, maybe get on lead card, start making a name for themselves, which is what I thought the Silver Series was gonna turn into, was, you know, a way for these players that aren't coming in top 25, top 50 to have another tour to go to and start making their name through the Silver Series.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just merged them together. But I still feel that these silver events are for those players that you were talking about who don't make much money on tour, being able to get points and become, get higher up on leaderboards that aren't stacked with all your top players. And then they throw in a whole 18 that without stroke and distance, you could design to still be hard and give risk reward. But now they just made it impossible for these guys who just are trying to grind and obviously might not have the consistency that the top players have, taking 19s and 15s. And then you even see James Conrad, who's a former world champion, taking a 14. It just seems like a bad look for disc golf in general.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, I don't enjoy it. Now, I mean, as a very much general rule, and I mean 99% of the time, I also have never had a complaint or felt that I should even have a say in course design. Like, that's not my job. My job is to play the course to the best of my ability. Whenever the question comes up, well, how do you feel about elevated baskets? My answer is I don't have an opinion about elevated baskets. That if that's where the chains are located on this hole, my job is to throw my disc into those chains in as few shots as possible. If the person designing the course was of the opinion that that is what made the hole better or that added a challenge, that's their call, not mine. So 99% of the time, I'm like, look, here's the course you have, play it. I just don't like I just don't like that. I don't like that, and I don't like when a hole lock, a wooded hole without a fairway. Like okay, so
Right.
that but I won't complain about it. I just don't like it.
Right.
Right.
Well, the course designer was Andrew Duval, who is the course designer of the USDGC course. Uh, so I mean, obviously USDGC courses change almost every year, and a lot of the decisions made are controversial. You got the mozzarella sticks and all that. So I mean, he's no stranger to controversial hole designs, and I feel it's almost a calling card of his at this point. But I
And
wonder if the
you don't have to go play the tournament, okay? If you don't, I
right,
mean,
yeah,
if you don't like it, like it's. I mean, I look. I don't like those holes whatsoever. I absolutely defend his right to make those holes on the course if it's within the rules. I support that. And if he, like you said, if he doesn't, if you don't want to play it, don't play it. I just, some people enjoy train wrecks. Some people want to see people blow up. It's exciting to them
right.
to watch the drama. And, all right, I, I defend your right for that to be exciting for you. I just don't find it so.
Yeah, that's kind of how they market it at USDGC. They're neck and neck, but we got coming up the infamous hole 17 where anything could happen, and they kind of play up that drama. But
Yeah, hats off to them. I mean, it's their tournament, but
yeah, but
I enjoy it.
what happened at Blue Ridge was what we thought was going to be drama, and what happened to not be drama. And I'm talking about Bradley Williams' shot on 18 where he could have forced a playoff. I have it here. We'll watch it. That's the wrong one. There it is.
This is the shot that Bradley has been waiting for and visualizing for the past few minutes. If he throws this in, he forces Gannon Burr into a playoff.
Switching things up, going with just a little bit deeper of a putter here.
All right, so this is Bradley opting not to run the impossible shot.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was expecting
bad.
when
Bradley
you
sees his chances of winning.
when you have a chance to throw in to force a playoff for a win, even though it is a silver event, any event.
Place to Gannon Burr. This is the shot that Bradley.
I feel that even the commentators were kind of, I mean, you heard it there, shot he's been waiting for, the throw in. They were expecting, he's going to go for it. All or nothing. It's either going to be second or fourth. He's going to try for it, and then he lays up. And you saw the torrential downpour. In your experience, if you were in Bradley Williams' shoes, then would you have gone for the throw in, or would you have laid up and secured second place?
Okay, I would have laid up. I'm totally on Bradley's side, but I'll explain why. It's going to take a minute. First, I do want to point out Bradley is my number one player that I practice before a tournament with. He is more fun to prepare for a tournament with than any other player on tour last year. He's where I start my practice card. And he is also probably the best example of a player out there who has evolved as a professional and professionalism in the sport. Huge Bradley fan, but that's not why I'm defending his decision. So when you're a professional disc golfer, you're competing on two scorecards or two sets of scorecards. The first is the disc golfer card. It's disc golfer scorecard, and that is how many strokes under par, how many wins you have, your rating, like how you perform on the course. That is one of the scoreboards you're competing on. But the professional part of professional disc golfer, and I don't mean professionalism, but the professional part, the professional scorecard is your bank account. And the bank account matters. I mean, first and foremost, it's how you survive on the road.
Right.
Like you got to take care of yourself. You got to put gas in the tank. You got to eat. And I mean, it's a grind out there, and not everybody is making a ton of money. You are competing for both scoreboards. Now, one of them affects the other, right? How well you shoot affects the other scoreboard. How much money you make in your social media or with your sponsorship has no effect on how you score on the course. But both scoreboards matter. Bradley's a touring player. He was in conditions where he's like, what is he, 1,000 to 1 against making that shot, but
right.
with a 40% of losing $1,000 by going for it. Like, he would have been crazy to go for that one. Now, if it's the World Championships, this is your one shot at winning Worlds, I will guarantee you Bradley would have stepped up and gunned at full speed, and he would have not regretted had he thrown out of bounds and finished fourth place. Not for 1 second. But this is a Silver Series event. This is effectively, if you're a touring pro, this is a B tier.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to, I'm missing that tournament, but I mean, as a person that's playing league events and majors, and by the way, Bradley, he won the Maple Hill, he won
the Preserve last year.
Preserve.
Yep.
Yeah, so winning major, big, massive, not majors, but major tournaments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it's like, yeah, let's secure another $1,000 in the bank. I'll get my or not just $1,000. He's probably getting win bonuses from his sponsors. You know, I don't think for a decision, not at all. And had it not been windy and pouring rain and just impossible in, I bet he gives it a bid. Absolutely. But come on, what, 1,000 to 1, 5,000 to 1 against making it in those conditions? 40% chance of losing $1,000. Ugh. If he had run it, it's like, come on, what are you thinking?
Right.
And
yeah.
One more time. World Championships, you run that. USDGC, you run that. Of course you do. Bradley would have.
Yeah, I think the situation there, I'm not saying it felt like a letdown, but the way the commentary, which I said this during our podcast, Brian Earhart, my favorite commentator. But
Nate Perkins was great too.
Yeah. But they were really building as if they already knew that he was going to go for it. So they're, as he was walking up, like, all right, that's the shot he's been waiting for. He's the throw in to push a playoff, as if it was already going to happen. And it got everyone going, oh, man. Because a throw in, if it goes in, is electric. So you want to see it. You're just like, oh, man, it's going to happen. And then he laid up. And even Brian Earhart in that clip goes, wow. Like, he wasn't expecting it.
I think part of that, too, is the way Bradley was playing that entire weekend. Mm-hmm. Like, he was playing lights out almost that whole weekend. Some of the straight shots, like his shot shapes, shot touch. I think that course in general favored speed control of all things. And Bradley Williams is one of the best on tour, in my opinion, of speed control of his disc, being able to put the correct speed on it and put it where it needs to be. So I think that's part of the surprise too, is like he had been playing great all weekend.
Right. But
so
I agree with you, Scott. Like, if that throw is worth $1,000, $1,500, I'm laying it up
100%.
every time.
Yeah. And the commentators, I mean, this is the joy of live sports. You know, your team is to get a touchback. You get the ball on the 20 or 35 yard line. There's a minute and 20 seconds left. You have 2 timeouts. Like, you got to take a shot at this. And then all of a sudden the quarterback takes a knee. Well, the commentators are just armchair quarterbacks, right? They're
right.
just they're creating, the job is to create the drama. And so, and also just not even that. It's not even fair to say. Their job is to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nate Perkins is a high level, successful professional disc golfer. And so he's been there at many, many tournaments. He's going to give his opinion.
Yeah, so, going to the playoff with what was it?
It was so ugly out there. I mean, boring like that. I mean, that's crazy. I'm sure Bradley's thought was, why did it have to start dumping on me right now?
Right.
I was in this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna give a shout out to the commentators again. It's one thing to be able to talk for 3.5 hours, and they had a lightning delay, so even longer than that. But it's another thing to be able to talk that long and be interesting. And I feel that Brian Earhart, I freaking love Brian Earhart, but Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins were able to be interesting during that 4 hours, which you don't find.
Great commentator duo for sure.
Yeah, which you don't find. We don't have that yet. That truly professional broadcast quality commentator. We're still working it out, figuring out who works well together and bringing new guys in. And these two are my favorite that I've seen, aside from maybe the combo of Terry, Nate Doss, and Brian Earhart together, because they all work off each other really well.
For sure. And I mean, Nate Perkins has taken on a more. I think he's found a niche that I hope he does for a long time. Actually, it's really funny. When I got to spend a little bit of time with Nate Perkins, I actually posted to my Facebook page something along the lines of, when you're around Nate Perkins and you just see the way he smiles, it makes you feel better about the world, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be sappy. And then I realized later, after I posted it, it really sounded like I have a crush on him. But he's one of the people where, like, you're around him, like when next time you go out to dinner at a tournament, invite Nate to come with you. He will make your table better with his spirit. So, like, yeah, I'm love. I say that about everybody. I say I love everybody. I don't love everybody. A lot of people I just like a lot. Right. But Nate Perkins is one of the good guys. I hope he does this for a long time. He's got a career, a really good future in front of the camera, in my opinion.
Yeah, we were talking about this on our podcast at C1 in the morning. The way he speaks, especially, like, you're not used to hearing some of the words he uses in a commentary booth. Like, I seen one where I think it may have been Gannon. It could have been either Kyle Klein. Got a really fortunate kick off a tree. He's like, "Oh, that was magical." And you just don't hear commentators say that. And it just makes you happy to hear them say that in the commentator booth. It's so good.
He brings a sense of comedy too.
Guy.
Yeah, he brings a sense of comedy too. It was another tree kick, I think. The one right after that exact tree kick hits off the tree, positive tree kick towards the basket, and it's maybe 30 seconds of dead silence, and all you hear is Nate Perkins just say, "What is happening? What is actually happening?" Because he couldn't believe that he was seeing all this tree love back to back to back. So yeah, he definitely brings a sense of comedy and professionalism, I think, which is kind of nice.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, the thing about commentary, I can't even tell you. I mean, hundreds of people have messaged me or commented that they think I should do commentary. And I think it's because I got interesting stories, and I'm, maybe I'm funny at times. I like to think I am. But when I watch commentary, I see something that's really hard to do well. And I don't think my personality matches for comedy. I think my personality matches. I think I'm the guy who's great to bring to dinner,
right?
And I'll entertain people all night. But the actual ability to talk, but to know when not to talk, to condense what you have to say. Like, you got 30 seconds of things to say, but you need to hit 2.5 seconds of bullet points. Like that. That's a skill. It's a really high level skill, and I don't think I would be good at it, to be honest, or at least I wouldn't be good at it until I practiced it for years. So it would take a while. So, but now you're people like them.
Status.
yeah, when I look at them, when I look at the people that are good at it, which is just about honestly, most of the people now are good.
Hmm.
I admire that.
Yeah, that was something I enjoyed about the broadcast this weekend. Is they came in, they broke down the shots, they did their commentary, but if there was nothing that they had to say, they didn't say it, and then you could hear, you know, the
The spicy shots from the halal guys.
but you could hear the banter on the card and the I mean the ambience of the course, and it was nice because it made it more immersive, and it made you more like captivated by it. But then when a shot was thrown, then they could, they finally was like, okay, here we go, and they can break down the shot and comment and do whatever they need to do. It was really nice. I'm not the guy that goes up on social media and complains about the commentary, but of the commentary teams that we've had, this one was my favorite so far.
Well balanced. Well balanced indeed.
That's beautiful. I'll tell you, another person that's good is James Proctor. Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, he did. I was actually when they did. I was on the featured card at the Butler Open, Butler County Open,
Hmm. Butler County Classic.
um, Butler County Classic. Yeah, I was in the featured card, and uh, I was hoping to have the traditional commentators that are always on there, covering me, and especially because there's people that I've known for years that could I thought would have my back and like say nice things about me.
Right.
And but when I actually listened to the commentary with those guys, I was like, I couldn't have been more pleased with how they like how they were. So yeah, I think everybody does a good job now. You know what's really funny? What I would like to do, and I don't know if this is even going to be remotely interesting or if I'm going to be allowed to do this as at the bigger tournaments. But I want to mic myself up and have someone just film me during like a tournament round. And if people like it, I'll do it more than one. And I'm really just going to be narrating my thought process during the round. And a lot of it, I think, could be very intelligent. What's going through my head, my decision making, the psychology, the mental game. Uh, but at the same time, it's going to probably be a lot of me like calling myself an idiot and probably saying things out loud that I think that if I'm not paying attention, I didn't realize I said out loud, and it's going to be a live stream. And so, like, God only knows what's going to come out of my mouth. I mean, the ability to not say every thought that comes into your
Right.
head is a skill
You just
that
wish
you
you had
have
like
to
a
be able to.
real life censor
Absolutely
button.
true. Absolutely true.
But the thing about me recording my round is I don't think it works if it's not a live stream, because if it's not a live stream, there's no wondering what's going to be said. Like, I think the live stream is what makes it interesting,
Right.
because you don't know. It's not like I can delete something or not air. Oh, I had a terrible round, so I didn't post it. It's like, no, it's live.
It's live. You
So I'm
watched
gonna,
every little bit.
yeah, I'll be asking tournament directors at some tournaments if I could just stick a microphone on, and we'll see. Because I'll tell you what, I got the idea because when during the skins match last year, I was mic'd up.
Hmm.
And I was talking to myself the whole time. I had no idea I said these things out loud, where I walked up and I'm like looking at the shot. I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh, you got this. Come on, Scott, you can do this. I had no idea that I was saying those things out loud. Like, that's just what was going on inside my head. But then I think from a entertainment perspective, I think that made it more interesting. But it wasn't on purpose.
Right.
I was
Subconscious thoughts
mumbling
just coming to
to
the surface. That's awesome.
All right. Well, from switching from this past weekend to this coming up weekend, we have the first major of the year.
Major of the year.
Champions Cup at WR Jackson, which I'm sure you've played WR Jackson. Jackson. You have not?
Nope. That was last year. I took 2 tournaments off because I was 103rd in Circle 1X putting,
Mm.
and it was like I need to make some big putting changes. I took 2 weeks off just to putt. and that was one of the tournaments that I took off.
And you never
But
played
I
there
watched.
before?
No. I went out. I actually went out and watched the event. I
Okay.
was there. Oh yeah, no, I saw the drama that happened with with the FPO field.
Kristen and
Maybe
And
we'll
Paige.
have to drop an exclusive outside the circle vlog episode where we all meet at WR Jackson for a round in person sometime.
Watch you just eat my lunch.
I got to. Why don't you guys fly to Europe or Asia instead? Because I'm afraid to fly, and it's kind of fun out here.
I'm sure my wife would love that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, well, perfect. Hey, if she has a problem with it, just give me her phone number. I'll talk to her for you.
Perfect.
just be like, okay, I got to go play
You're welcome.
around in England.
In Wales, I'll be back in
See ya.
3 to 5 weeks.
But
Yeah.
well, at least you have more insight on the course. And we were talking about this. I'm happy with the fact that they plan to keep it at WR Jackson. Why can I not say that word? Jackson. And because it was going to move to Toboggan, which another course that I'm sure you have experience at,
I would
correct?
have not had any complaints from that either, because that would have been kind of awesome to have that here in the home turf of Michigan.
But I asked, what do you think of the move to keep it at WR Jackson? And I mean, both courses have their own sets of difficulties, but do you think that WR Jackson is a major level course?
I mean, it seems like it. I mean, it's a good, challenging, hard wooded course. This is always going to be tough. Like I know the DGPT was like I'm friends with the people involved in the organization, and it's a constant point of discussion about what types of things you need to keep a tournament on the tour. I know it's a major, whether it's I can never keep track of what's under what umbrella, but it's the same type of discussion, which is keeping an event. There's tradition, there's relationships that you've built, but what about this other one that maybe is bringing in more money and could bring more exposure or hit a part of the country that you wouldn't otherwise, a region that you're not otherwise going to.
Right.
Bringing more spectators.
Well, that's what's funny is that the conversations involve things like, does that place have good Wi-Fi? Is there suitable parking? Like De La Viega is the most iconic, aside from Oak Grove Park, the world's first course. De La Viega is probably the most iconic, famous disc golf course historically in the world, and it also has no parking and no Wi-Fi.
Right.
It's just not suited for this. It's also they're all par threes, right? It's old school.
Yeah.
So it's moving it. It's like I get the idea of improving and moving, but then also what about tradition?
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say that there's not the Saudis come in and offer more prize money at
Right.
4 events, golf tournaments. Well, then do you not play Augusta? Do you not go to St. Andrews once in a while? I think they play St. Andrews, right? Like, so I don't know. I think it's fine. I do like the fact that there is a very well represented wooded course, because that is a sizable percentage of our sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like ball golf courses like on tour. I can't stand them. Most of the players don't like them, but a sizable percentage of courses out there are long open bomber courses. So I think that they still need to be represented as a percentage of major events.
Thank you. I went on quite the rant a couple weeks ago about ball golf courses on tour and how much I just don't like seeing them.
No, they're from the player's perspective. Okay, here's what's awful about ball golf courses. I'll go on to my rant, but it might be a little bit different.
You can say as much hate on ball golf courses as you like. I'm receive it.
Frame him up. Send him on the rant.
It's fun to watch a disc fly 700 feet. I think it's like it's enjoyable to see players open up and see what they can do. Here's the problem from the player's perspective. Okay, let's just I'm going to pick just a hole at random. Use your imagination. It's your typical mediumly. That's not, no, it's a word now. It's a mediumly wooded, but ball golf hole, which means it's fairly open. You're a brand new player. You step up to the hole, you can count 17 trees on that hole. Well, as you get better, certain trees are no longer in play. Well, once a tree's not in play, it's not on the hole. So now that same player's on that tee pad, and there's only 14 trees on this hole. Now there's only 12. Now there's only 7. Next thing you know, that player's an MA1 player. They're stepping up to that same hole and they're looking at it going, all I got to do is miss that one tree. The other 16 holes are no longer in play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of these holes at the highest level, even that tree's not in play, which means you're playing a golf hole with 0 obstacles. Maybe you have out of bounds to deal with. So you have 0 obstacles and landing zones. Well, now you could have a good player who's playing 14, 15, 16 holes on a course without a single tree on the course for them. That's really, really boring.
Yeah.
That's boring for the, no, I mean, no one likes to play a hole where there's no obstacles, but that is what happens at the highest level. So go to W.R. Jackson. Okay. The fairways, they begin to appear progressively larger the better you get, but on every hole, there's obstacles in play.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. Like, you have to execute. Now, there's a randomness in the woods, right? Like good kicks versus bad kicks. But the reality is, at the end of a 3 or a 4 round tournament, from a statistical, mathematical, every player in the tournament is within 5 to 10% of each other in terms of how many positive or negative kicks they get. I mean, the way math works, it's called regression to the mean. It's the law of large numbers, kind of like playing a part in this. But basically, nobody has significantly worse luck than somebody else over a sample size of 72 holes. It feels like you did. It feels like the other player got lucky and you got every bad break in the world. Mathematically, it didn't happen that way. So
Right.
I think it tends to level out enough where I'm not so concerned with it as long as you have fairways. But it's fun. You have obstacles in the way every hole. One other point to this is that there's always been the argument, well, it's bad for coverage. You know, there's easier to cover ball golf courses. It's easier for spectators, or for a large number of spectators, to go out on the course. Mm-hmm. Well, I took every course last year, every single course we played on the Pro Tour, and there were 39 of them. I think it was 39. But I did a bracket.
Oof.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
I did a single bracket elimination tournament on the channel where I had people vote. I basically made a bracket of a random of every single touring course. Which course do you enjoy watching more on coverage? And I wanted to see, do the wooded courses just get smoked? And that's not what happened. You know, according to the players, the people that were voting, the courses they most wanted to see on courses correlated almost exactly with the courses that the players would agree were the most interesting, challenging, fun, fair courses.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't all a bunch of ball golf courses. Ball golf, covering discs flying on a ball golf course on video isn't more exciting than in the woods. You're still watching a player throw, maybe catch camming the flight, and then seeing where it lands, and then the drama of were they out of bounds or not. So it's not even better video coverage on the ball golf course, like people say. It's only maybe more room for spectators. So, of course, like W.R. Jackson probably can't have 5,000 spectators at it. We can cross that bridge when we have 5,000 out. But right now, I think it's great. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with the wooded course. I mean, 20% of the courses in the country or 9% or something are heavily wooded. So they should be right.
98.99% of the courses here in Michigan are heavily wooded courses. Fact.
Yeah. To me, I feel that in wooded courses, the shots themselves are more interesting. Ball golf courses, it's bomb it, throw it on hyzer, let it flip up, ride, dump most of the time, or a simple stock hyzer, and then maybe an interesting kind of upshot into wherever they have the green. In wooded courses, you get to see, oh, well, this is a hyzer flip to let it ride with something understable thrown at, or understable thrown at slower speed so that they get the right type of landing. And that stuff to me is more interesting. Just say, how far can I throw this on this angle? That's why I like wooded courses more than ball golf courses. But also, we had a discussion about this when I started playing disc golf. Is when you saw the De La Viegas and all that still being covered, because the Pro Tour was, I mean, we still had the Pro Tour National Tour, and the Pro Tour was still in its infancy. So we still got to see these wooded old courses, which, I mean, so I fell in love with the game of disc golf during that era when you seen all these courses. He started playing disc golf when the ball golf courses started to be covered more, so he enjoys ball golf courses more, or doesn't mind the coverage as much as I do.
I don't mind the coverage as much as Luke. I would say if I had to pick like an ideal course that I like to watch, Maple Hill is that course. I think that it is very well balanced of like cool, even on the big bomber holes. It's like if you don't have perfectly good shot placement where your disc lands, you are pinched off. You can't get to the gap. You have to go up or over or around, whatever it may be. Like that's my ideal course to watch would be like a Maple Hill, but I don't mind the golf courses as much as Luke does, is what I would say.
But also, you like the Open at Austin, like you didn't mind that course, and I didn't care for that course at all because it was another ball golf course that you just bomb. So we kind of figured out it's like when you started getting into disc golf, what they were covering, you start to have more affinity for.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. By the way, in my bracket tournament, Maple Hill finished first place.
As it should.
Should.
I mean, that's a destination course for anybody.
The only drawback to Maple Hill is that it's like a par 61.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of par threes throw up to the basket. That's not a knock on the course. I mean, Maple Hill's in my top 5 in the world, like pretty easily. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I just recently watched the Simon vlog where you threw the under the leg forehand across the pond.
Yeah, piece of cake. And that, if you look at Simon, the most watched player vlog in the sport, and his second most viewed video has like 500,000 views, and then he shot a practice round with me and it got 1 million views, and I was like, I'll wear that as a badge of honor. He was a bit surprised. He's like, why? Like, and I'm like, because I got this great audience of people that aren't necessarily following the tour. They're following the stuff I'm doing, and they're amazing. The funny thing about the shot over the water is that I was Simon Lizotte before Simon Lizotte, right? Like I was throwing the biggest shots, I was throwing the trick shots, there's no coverage back then, but I was doing those things. I wasn't doing trick shots as cool as the one Simon's doing. I was never, I had no financial motivation to go out and spend all day throwing, a 1,000 shots at some really cool trick shot hole in order to get the video. But that's what I was doing. So when we stepped up to that hole, Simon, he says, "Do you want to throw trick shots over the water?" And I was like, "Yes, I do, Simon."
Hell yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
I'm not 65 yet. I still got a little bit of fight in me. And so you want to go do trick shots up against me head to head? I'll make you work for it. I got a couple of tricks up my old man's sleeve.
Heck yeah. Well, before we wrap this up, is there anything you'd like to plug, and where are you going to be? Because you're all over the world.
Oh, yeah. I'm in Japan for 8 more days. And then we're going to the UK for a month. I'm going to compete in the Welsh Open and then a couple tournaments around Birmingham. And then I'm going to Glasgow, Scotland.
Glasgow.
To play the Open. Yes, I'm going to Glasgow, and then I'm going to head over to Ireland to golf over there, but not in a tournament. I am doing 8, and I'm about to post the dates. I have 8 clinics that are going to be all over the UK that everybody's invited to come. I mean, you have to pay me to come, but it's an open invite to anybody. That'll be posted. And something that I'm trying to put together right now, which I'm pretty sure I can do it. Have you guys ever followed my longest disc golf hole series?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I played a 55,000-foot hole down a beach, and then I invited people to break the hole, but only by like 100 meters or a kilometer, or I forget what it was, but I was encouraging people to break it by a little bit because then a whole bunch of people can keep breaking this record for the longest disc golf hole ever played. It's not a real record. It's just silly, but fun. And these guys in Minnesota went out and broke it in the snow. So I was like, all right. So I, I played a hole about 11 miles long across Death Valley, where I set up a basket on one end of the opposite end of the valley, just played across Death Valley. Then they broke it again. So I played an even longer hole in Tasmania, and then they broke it again. So I wish more people would do it. It's really fun. Like, I want more people on this. But anyways, I'm talking to someone in Scotland about playing the setting the world's longest hole record, the new record across the Highlands of Scotland.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
I think that'd be epic, right? So for me, it's like I'm trying to find cool, interesting locations. I mean, I'm not interested in playing across, 11 miles of field. I want to play someplace that's interesting. Like I was going to actually do it I wanted to do it in Mongolia. I still might at some point. I was talking to a Chinese player in Beijing, which is like 2 hours or something from Mongolia. And they're like, yeah, we're in. So I'm going to keep breaking this record. As long as someone breaks it, I'm going to re-break the record. But I'm going to do it in interesting places. So that's my other plan for Scotland, is to play a hole across the Highlands.
Heck yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. I look forward to watching it, and challenge accepted.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to do it, you got to fly someplace like probably weird, because like it's got to be someplace. I think it has to be someplace scenic and iconic. Like, I'm not interested in just playing a hole just to do it. If I can, I mean, I'm not going to break the record back right away just because someone broke it. I want to wait until I have that's interesting, because it is like a 6-hour golf hole with like 300 throws. I mean, it's like it has to be, or else it wouldn't be as fun. But yeah, that's my plan. So other than that, I got my 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer class. All my Tour Series discs are available. The documentary that I've been seeing is about a month.
There.
I think the person is going to be announcing the date here shortly. That down there.
Yeah, it's down.
So
it's down there somewhere.
I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to give us a small plug before we head out?
Yeah, sure. Get us at C1 in the morning. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, Speakpipe. You can reach us at the Speakpipe. Leave some messages there, and Linktree. We will have the Linktree in the description of this YouTube video, so you can get at us there and check out our podcasts, and we'll have some vlogs and stuff posted and cool stuff like that. And we'll have some cool merch hopefully dropping here at some point.
Yeah.
But other than that, it is always a pleasure, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as your show, I would like to point out to all of your fans out there that have a crush on you, that because you won't see my old man mug on the screen, that both of you will be even larger on the screen. Yes. So if you have a crush on Luke or Jake, that's the show you want to watch.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone's here for you, Scott. That's fine.
Final message, whatever you do, I condemn disc golf circle jerks on Reddit. What a horrible, awful page. Don't go there. It's not funny at all. You won't laugh out loud. Milk will not come out your nose if you go to that page during breakfast. I promise you, it's terrible. Don't read it.
And with that, we'll see you next week and talk about all the happenings and the Champions Cup, the first major of the year. Thanks, Scott.
Have a great one,
Yeah.
guys.
You guys.